as a kid, I was interested in animals. I liked to be outdoors in nature. At one point, my father decided it would be good for me to go away to school. The first school on the list to visit is called the Millbrook School. And when I got there and discovered the school had a zoo, I decided this is where I want to go. So before I was 15, I understood the outline of life on Earth as it was then known to be. Today we would call that biodiversity, right? And I've never been able to get enough of it.
To the world, Dr. Tom Lovejoy was known as the godfather of biodiversity. To my mom and 2 aunts, he was known as Papa, and to me, my sister, and 4 cousins, he was Vovo, our dear grandfather. Vovo was a scientific giant, a naturalist who, with E.O. Wilson, pioneered the field of conservation biology. He conceived the debt for nature swap concept. He was also a longtime National Geographic explorer at large, a senior fellow at the United Nations Foundation, a professor and founding scientific director at the Institute for a Sustainable Earth at George Mason University, the chief biodiversity advisor to the World Bank, and the first scientist ever hired by the World Wildlife Fund.
Tom was obsessed by the forests of the Amazon. It would perhaps be too glib to say that he could identify every bird he glimpsed fluttering through its branches, and every tiny mammal that he caught in the light of his torch. But I know I would have been better informed after a walk with him through the depths of those forests than with anyone else I have ever known.
He knew the importance of bringing people together, the power of that, and the power of putting the work into relationships, because, you can be doing all the science and, gathering all the data and stuff, but, the relationship to other people to make things happen is just as important as getting all the data.
You can make a difference as an individual. You can make a difference as a group, but you can also make a difference as an individual. And some of it is about educating yourself. Some of it is about sharing with others. The way you live can make an impact.
Vovo left us on Christmas Day 2021, his favorite day of the year. Today, our family and some close friends are returning with Vovo's ashes to the Amazon, where he devoted most of his life to understanding and protecting.
Yeah. Well, we've been bringing Papa back to Brazil, back to Camp 41,
back to the Amazon,
and some other important places that were near and dear to him when he came down. When he was in the hospital in December, before he passed, he, with a twinkle in his eye like he usually does, he sort of crooked smile and said, "Well, I guess I'm taking you on one last adventure." And I think he knew that that's because this is where we were going to be bringing him.
And so at a certain point, I was looking for, what's next. The World Wildlife Fund of the United States was looking for a project administrator. So I went there, I thought, for 2 years, and ended up staying 14. And we actually decided at the time that WWF would concentrate on the New World and the New World tropics. The Amazon was this incredibly important piece, the single largest repository of biodiversity on Earth. We were going to be smart about conservation. And one of those was habitat fragmentation, which of course became one of the main things that I engaged in.
We woke up very early at the hotel, around 3 or 3:30, depending, and we loaded up at 4 a.m. so that we could take this crazy trip up to the bird tower, which was our first stop on our trip. And we loaded into a bus initially that would kind of burn some miles to a place where we could no longer take the bus and we had to offload into trucks. And we had, I think, 6 or 7 trucks, 4 or 5 to a truck, and we bounced down some very muddy roads, just really first gear, second gear, bumping, grinding, sliding, slipping.
We stopped at the bird tower, climbed the bird tower, and spent a good amount of time up there looking at birds and different trees and things that he loved.
Yeah, so this is the oldest observation tower anywhere in the Amazon. It's built in the 70s, and it hadn't received any real serious maintenance until about 5 years ago. So it was a 40-year-old tower at that point. So it's contributed a lot to understanding Amazon forest and to tourism. It's become a really prized destination that all bird watchers that know anything about the Amazon want to come to.
He didn't tell us a lot about what he wanted, and he really didn't tell us anything about what he wanted, but the one very, very clear instruction was that he wanted his ashes back at Camp 41.
So everybody who would like to, take a little pinch and return Papa. Sure.
Down, and then we spent many more hours in the trucks. You go from being on this muddy, slippery, kind of little scary road for many hours, where there's actually a lot of sun, and then you come to this like a little boardwalk area where the cars park, and then there's this. It's almost like there's like a hole in the forest, and it's
a dark hole.
It's really dark.
Yeah.
And then at the end of, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of a mile, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
You come into the camp, and you can kind of see a light in this like dark tunnel going through the forest, and then it just opens up, and there's hammocks, and different color hammocks, and it's very, in my opinion, very welcoming and comforting to come into this sunny, beautiful camp.
Camp 41 is the world-renowned site that is home to the longest continuously running scientific research station in the Amazon. This collection of tin-roofed buildings, hammocks, and a rustic lab sit among a 620 square mile area where some of the most important Amazonian research has taken place.
Camp 41 is our grandfather's camp where we are today, and this is the big return.
So that's why it's back to Camp 41.
That's why it's back to Camp 41.
And you're not the only one wearing the hat.
And also, I don't have mine on.
And
I
also
have one.
Bobo's
Also,
back.
Papa expressed that this is where he wanted to come back to Camp 41.
Personally, for me, I haven't been back to Camp 41 in so many years.
Yeah.
And it was, not just wonderful for me for why we are here this time, but just kind of to touch back on that part of me. Mm-hmm. But this is the hard part. The first thing that I saw when I came to camp was the memorial.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So they had a beautiful memorial created for Papa that will be there always.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a little garden. They tended to the garden.
Yeah.
And they just made it really special.
Tom requested that his ashes be spread at Camp 41, which is the main camp, the biggest camp of the Biological Dynamics of Forest Fragments project, which he started. And it's a place, Camp 41 is a place he came back to every New Year's Eve with a group of different folks each time, sometimes family, sometimes close friends, often important movers and shakers in conservation, and a place that he just loved and felt very comfortable in. And so for us, it's very touching and special that he felt the same way we all do about this place. In honor of his wishes to be partially left here, we've put up a plaque that says, that gives a quote of Tom's, of how much he loves nature. What part of the mission is a new mission, of course, which is spreading his ashes in strategic places, in camp and elsewhere. Otherwise, while we're here, what we're doing is, in many ways, repeating the same routine that he did with his visitors. We're bird watching, we're talking about nature, we're going on walks.
But we spent the 3 days mostly socializing and sharing memories about Papa and just enjoying each other's company, and also education from the field experts and from Mario and Hita, taking walks through the forest and learning about the kinds of things that students are studying there.
Over the years of taking people to Camp 41, I have found that the less that I lecture at people while they're there, the better the experience it is. And in my ideal trips, we go for 3 nights. Right? Well, that means that whoever it is has had to listen to the forest for 3 days and 3 nights. And they can't help but internalize that it's a living planet that we live on and benefit from. It affects them in a way that beyond just sheer logic.
We're probably one of the few projects that can give straight answers about the changes of the past 40 years.
So here is probably the best example in the world that we have very nice, alive library of trees that we know a lot of things about.
So we're going for a walk in the woods, only you're right in the middle of the Amazon. Is this as different as you expected? Is it similar to what you've seen before? What do you think? Any impressions?
Mario is channels his inner Tom in leading this sort of thing, but Tom would be doing just what we're doing and pointing out as we go along. He's pointing out the cool things like the leafcutter colony and the ants across the path. And
Tom's expertise went far beyond the mere identification of species. He used it to ask questions that few, it seems, had ever bothered to ask before. How old is this particular patch of forest? How many different species does it contain? Or, to put it more concisely, what is its biological diversity? A term, often shortened to biodiversity, that many say Tom himself invented. He was certainly one of the very first to define it and to study what it describes.
What is the purpose of sharing this with people?
Well, the deep purpose, of course, is to have people, once they get to know and love a place, that's the only time you're going to fight to defend it. And so this is Tom's way of introducing people, and he brought an amazing cast of characters here. Congressional delegations with senators and representatives and all sorts of other luminaries, Tom Cruise, and so he was all about spreading the word, basically, that there's this amazing resource for the planet that we all need, and not just because it's pretty, but it's because it does so much for the whole world's ecosystem.
So basically, it was a giant experiment, and the whole idea was to have the clearing go on for these ranches to leave fragments of 1 hectare and 10 hectare and 100 hectares and 1,000 hectares to have matching plots of the same size in continuous forest, so you could make a real comparison. And you'd have to have, simple camps to support the students and the researchers who are working out in the forest. Camp 41 is the camp that is 41 kilometers from the nearest highway. And it's basically in continuous forest. So it's close to unbroken forest from there to the Guianas.
New Year's Eve morning, we sent part of Papa in these little...
New Year's Day. New Year's Day.
New Year's Day, sorry. We found little Brazil nut, dried out, empty Brazil nut casings, shells, and filled them with his ashes, and everyone took a turn putting 1 or 2 of the little Brazil nuts in the stream to send him down towards Belém. Yeah. And then we followed that with leaving some ashes at the base of the memorial where the plants are. So that, and there's plants now on top of where he is. So he'll always be in the camp and in his stream.
Yep. After being at Camp 41, the next spot that was very special to Papa is the meeting of the waters, where the Amazon River and the Rio Negro come together. And so we decided we would rent a riverboat for our big group and visit the waters and scatter his ashes into the meeting of the waters, and then go on a journey to see more of what he loved about the Brazilian Amazon, and also to come visit the community that is hosting his elementary school.
Peter, where are we going?
We're going to the Comunidade Tumbira. So you're going to go up those steps, and then there is a school up here that is named after Thomas Lovejoy. So we're going to visit this school, and I think you're going to leave a little bit of his ashes in the garden in front of the school that is named after him.
I think young people are the hope. They got to be telling us to do our job better. I mean, quite vigorously. Right? Nature really doesn't have a seat at the table. We haven't figured out how to do that right yet. A lot of this impact on nature is because we don't keep account of its value. But that's where we need to be looking at, something that cuts across all this immediate imperative to get nature out of the way to do something, right? And put some value on it and say, now wait a minute. Yeah. There needs to be a place for nature in all of this.
Vovo always spoke of hope. He warned that the Amazon will hit a tipping point when 20 to 25% of the forest cover is lost. cross that tipping point and the ecosystem begins to irreversibly collapse. If we destroy the Amazon, the rest of the planet will follow. It is estimated that 15% of the Amazon has been destroyed to date. In spite of this, Vovo would suggest that there is still time to save. If not the entire Amazon, then most of it. If not every species, then the great majority. Without hope, Vovo would say, there is no point. Optimism is our only option.
For him to try to impress upon everybody that that there's hope for, whatever cause, whatever you're working for, that no matter how daunting it feels, you have to have hope, because what did he say? If you don't have hope, then what is there?
How can those of us who knew Tom personally describe this extraordinary, influential, and lovable man? The word that comes to my mind is radiant. He had the broadest and most infectious smile I've ever known. But if in 20 years' time the world is truly on the way to recovery, if humanity has eventually succeeded in developing self-discipline, if the forests of the Amazon still stand over sufficient areas to enable them to maintain the stability of the world's climate, then this will be, in part, because Tom worked so hard, so expertly, and with such devotion to bring environmental wisdom to the world.
Rock in bed, sing me to sleep, keep my soul to keep your song still in